I mean, hell, I mean, even if you see that BlizzCon poster over there, that BlizzCon poster to me is a reminder of how much a large chunk of the world loved those franchises, especially for the memories that we all gained being a part of, that company's influence growing up or through challenging times. That it helped us, achieve a sense of peace, a catharsis, a community. So the original topic I wanted to talk about was displacement of accountability. But because of how big and complex that topic is, going so far as to address things within the religious community or even the political perspective of things, uh, I want to touch on something that is more immediate, something that people can easily access and look at, and really look at even themselves. And that is what I call cognitive stack. Now, because cognitive stack already exists as a different term within the same realm with a different definition, from what I envision, uh, I've changed the naming of my approach as narrative stack. Now, I have to ask you, when it comes to your friends, family, even strangers, how do you view them? Do you view them in the present sense? Do you view them with like in relationship to a memory, nostalgia? Do you see them in terms of how you commonly associate with them? That's when narrative stack comes into play because, well, let's go into some background. Now, systems thinking is one of the main foundations to this channel. And it's not that I'm the expert at it, it is something that I'm deeply passionate about. And systems thinking was officially created in the early 1900s by MIT instructors and professionals. But more importantly, it was leveraged later in the mid 1900s with psychology. And so we look at system psychology as a relationship to various different things of the human experience. Now, systems theory and psychology, let me just read this thing that I pulled. They see things as the human mind is a complex weave of physiological, chemical, and mental processes, and thus human beings should be treated as systems in themselves. So, in systems thinking, we look at things not from the mere elements, which you will see from an analytical point of view, but we also predominantly look at the relationships between things. For example, a popular way to emphasize systems thinking is, let's say we use pesticides in agriculture. Well, in a systems thinking approach, we don't just look at how the pesticides affect the pest. We also look at how does the pesticide affect the plant where the fruit is growing. We look at the soil treatment. We look at the long-term effects and the sustainability of the use of that pesticide on not just that local area, but in a broad sense. And that's the important thing about systems thinking is that we look at things in a systemic, in a widespread network of relationships, not just what's getting affected and all the play pieces as a part of it. Now, when you apply that to the human experience and you look at psychology, now you're dealing with not just what you're getting out of the one session. Now you're looking at the background. Now you're looking at the relationships. You're looking at a whole bunch of different things. And, two fields within system psychology is family systems therapy and systemic psychotherapy. And there's several others as well. Now, for people who view psychology through systems, they often will see individuals wanting to have homeostasis or balance and harmony with their systems or ultimately the groups that they're involved with. And usually, within this lens, you're looking at expectations of the individual, needs, desires, and ultimately behaviors in order to achieve that harmony or that homeostasis. And in family systems therapy, they see things as the family seen as an emotional unit where individuals are not just looked as individuals. They look at the entire system, the relationship between all people within that emotional unit. And in systemic psychotherapy, you're looking at the members, the individual's role in a group, and how that individual's role within the group ultimately affects that individual's functionality, which you can put in any organization. Like you can use that approach to your friends group, your church group, your business group, whichever the case is. Now, one of the biggest challenges in systemic psychotherapy is that it normally does not address like your past history, right? So let's say, for instance, if you have like a mental health challenge or you have like emotional trauma, PTSD, it typically doesn't look at that. And so, going to what I introduced in the beginning with the narrative stack, what I often will emphasize on an individual basis when I talk to people, when I try to understand them, when I ultimately get to know them, is what builds who they are. Because let's say, for instance, I look at their childhood and I get to know them as a child. What are their dreams? What are their aspirations? What did they enjoy doing? And then on top of that, you know, what, why did they get inclined to, a particular hobby or interest or superhero or, TV show? Like what were their favorite foods, and how that eventually starts to stack with their memories and influences and the way they're treated by friends and family, the experiences that really start to connect and weave, because it's funny, I didn't actually know about system psychology until very recently, because the most that I've been able to do, especially as a user experience designer, is look at systems thinking predominantly as a way to see all of existence, but really just look at design as a means of exercising systems thinking. So I joined the Systemic Design Association, which is centered in Europe, but they have an international community. And excuse me, but ultimately, I'm happy to know that there is a system psychology, because that means that we're more and more people are looking at things in systems. Excuse me. So, with that in mind, I just wanted to expose how I do things, how you can also do things in order to better understand people. When you look at their passions, their desires, their expectations, who they are, and recognize that even if you may not change them, even if you are not, the type of individual that will manipulate someone, get into the weave of their existence, to better respect each and every individual in the world, you get to really look at how does everything connect? How does the logic build up? For instance, I personally have no favor towards, Blizzard Entertainment, because I used to love them, StarCraft, Warcraft, etc. But there are other people who enjoy it, because it's not that they have a very, misguided understanding of the franchises that they love out of the video games of this Blizzard Entertainment. There's a history as to why they are so in love with that, regardless of the business practices and the ethics of the company. And I will not hate them for it. I may not agree with their love for it, but it's something that is really a part of their personal identity. I mean, hell, even if you see that BlizzCon poster there, that BlizzCon poster to me is a reminder of how much a large chunk of the world loved those franchises, especially for the memories that we all gained being a part of, that company's influence, growing up, or through challenging times, that it helped us, achieve a sense of peace, a catharsis, a community. But that's why it's important to look at everyone's narrative stack, the story of how everyone built up to who they are, why they believe what they do, the value of the human experience, which gives them that sense of joy, that happiness, that greater maturity, understanding, responsibility. It all comes from what I believe is someone's stacked experiences, and we will build communities off of shared stacks in a way, right? Like one layer of that cognitive or that narrative stack is enough to bind people together, to form those communities. And when you see things from that systemic point of view, the relationship of how these webs, these things are woven together, we're able to get a better understanding to emphasize compassion, and emphasize better community, emphasize better respect, establish ground rules to better communicate with people. And all it really deserves is to take the chance to get to know someone and to be open to being understood. Because in the end, at the end of the day, acknowledgement and understanding, acceptance and compassion is what I feel we all try to desire for a better society. With that said, that's as much as I'm willing to share because it's a very big thing, and we'll get into more examples of the application of the narrative stack in the future, especially as it ties to things like displacement of accountability and other things that I've been working on and use as a lens to view reality. So, with that said, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.